Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Quiet Work podcast. I'm here with Luis. We're going to talk about the entertainment industry. Luis has been in that industry for a few years, to say the least. So I'll let him introduce himself and tell us about the company he represents. Luis, take it away.
Well, thank you for the invitation. Just like you say, it's been a while in the business. I'm pretty sure it shows because it could be pretty stressful sometimes. But ultimately, it's really great because most people dream of making a living with something they love. And if anybody were to ask me what success is, that would be a place where I would start. Okay, the financials and everything else that comes later. When you put your passion into something because you love what you're doing or you love what you're involved with, which in my case is the arts, it becomes a little bit easier eventually to achieve financials because you get up every day to play more than to work.
Yeah,
So you can provide many more hours and walk the extra miles that other people probably wouldn't do.
100%. That reminds me of the words from Warren Buffett, who says, if you tap dance to work every single day, or he tap danced to work pretty much, and that made pretty much made him say that he never worked a day in his life because he loved it so much, and that obviously it's an ultimate dream for us all to be able to enjoy what we're doing, have a passion for it, and obviously, like you said, the financial reward comes after that if you're getting really good naturally because you can commit to it more than anyone else. If it feels like play to you, it might feel like work to someone else. So you're gonna win every time, and love it. But how did the passion develop for you for the entertainment industry, for hosting events and being in that world? How did it all start?
Well, since we're talking about what you love, usually you develop your love early on in life. In my case, was the arts. I somehow always felt like I have an ability to understand visual art, an ability to feel it, if you would. Music, from the very beginning, I was drawn to it. I'm never gonna forget the day that one of my neighbors, we were kids, and he brought a record by the Beatles, which we're talking about Lima, Peru, so it's Los Beatles. And so he brings the album and says, my brother listens to this all the time. And I had seen my dad how to use a turntable, so I was already able to play with that. And the music came out and it was amazing and I was hooked. Anyways, when I'm attending the University of Texas studying economics, and I think I was already pursuing my master's degree. But when I was even doing the BA, I had noticed that America had something that where I came from didn't really exist properly with a proper professional structure or as a proper industry. I saw guys that were friends of mine getting signed to labels and absolutely changing their lifestyle. And I was always geared to music, and Austin had a lot of music. At the same time, a friend of mine I was dating, Anita, told me something that is stuck in my head, which is Chamo, because she was from Venezuela. All I can tell you is if you are thinking you're going to be an economist, you are going to blow it in life. Okay. What I can see, she was a painter, by the way, who's exhibit her work everywhere in the world. But she goes, if you don't pursue music as a career, whether as a musician or something else, I know you're gonna lead a very unhappy life because you're always gonna think, I should have done that.
Mm.
Okay. And then there was this spectacular conversation with a professor of mine. I was obviously studying or focusing more on what was supposed to be my career, economics, business, etc. But as an elective course, I would take musicology classes. And I had the luck that the professor, his name is Gerard Behag, he's deceased now, was University of Texas had these professors, man, that were top, okay? In economics, I had a professor who was Nobel Prize in economics, for
Wow.
example. In this particular case, Behag, if you would have grabbed an encyclopedia, this is of course way before Wikipedia, you will grab an encyclopedia and look for a musical terms, and you will run into that he will be one of the signees at the end of the article. Okay, one of those guys. Yeah, UT had a bunch of them. I'm pretty sure they still do. But He's on Fridays. I had a ritual at the University of Texas. I would reshelve books at a library called which is a Benson Latin American collection. There are the two top libraries for Latin America, where it's one in Washington D.C., I believe, and the other one is at UT. And I will do the working reshelving books. Then I will walk across UT. I was young then because it's 40 acres, but I was young at the time. So I would make all the way across. And I will go visit my friend at the Texas Union, at the Cactus Cafe, which is usually very much geared towards folk music. But on those Fridays, when there were less students and everything, that was the time where you would listen to Van Halen, AC/DC, because both of us were into metal. He was the bartender at the time. Now he's a manager. And he would give me drinks for free because he was a bartender. And so I'm sitting there doing that when Professor Beja walks in. I think kind of like his wife was out of town, so he figured he would have a couple of drinks before going home. And we sat there and we talked maybe like friends, right? Which the relationship from professor to student didn't properly exist at that moment, when we were sitting there at the bar. And he tells me this thing, man, that when he was French, his family was French, but they were living in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And he wanted to be a jazz piano player. But he realized he didn't have the same magic that, say, Thelonious Monk or Clara Bley or any of these I call quantum rider cats. Okay, he didn't have that. But musicology was emerging as an scholastic discipline. And that to him, and that's when he said, I know how to study. So this is my ticket to live my life inside music. Okay. And that was to me like a revelation of some kind. And I was like, okay, dude, you need to figure something out. And so I picked up the Austin Chronicle, which at the time was the Bible for the arts in Austin. And there was an ad where they were hiring for a record label. Turns out the gentleman that owned it was one of the bass players that Janis Joplin had. He had a blues label. Because I always loved rock and roll, and I tried to read as much as I could and collect music. I had like 7,000 vinyls here in
I see just a little bit of it, obviously.
yeah, just a little bit. And he told me, well, he was impressed that a foreign student would know that much of blues and rock. And we hit off real well. Became friends, everything. He hired me. And I was able to stay in Austin, which love Austin. I have loved Austin all my life. And I think that Austin has slowed me back. It's allowed me to have a career of decades in the arts. And at that moment, basically it was like getting paid for panhandling. It was man, you're getting a paycheck and all you are doing is listening to music and marketing it. And it's a difference when you have somebody in a call center making a call for something when they actually hate their job, or when you're calling somebody because whatever you are representing love, and so that way you get them distribution, for example, or you get them in events or festivals where you're going to be able to expose their art and hope it's a form of marketing, if you would. And so then it just became that. Then eventually I went on my own and created a company that was called Latino Rock Alliance, which was for rock and roll in Spanish. And then a lot of our live source, okay, was record labels. At the time, this is before MP3s, they killed record labels, but at the time they were what fueled the industry. Okay. A band is like an enterprise. Okay. And that was one type of enterprise. You wouldn't get funding from a bank, for example. Okay. So the record labels were kind of like your bank. They would pay for part of the tour. They would pay for promotion. They would take the risk, in that investment, a very highly risky type of investment. Okay. Because you may be really, really good, but end up teaching music in a high school. Okay, just because people didn't like it enough. And so they would we would leave off the labels, marketing and everything else. And then eventually, when the labels started disappearing, they began merging, and then the threes were distributing music for free. Then there was obviously not those contracts disappear, and then I went into festivals. And then these also changed because some companies like Live Nation, trying to remember, Clear Channel was a name before Live Nation, but they started taking also the bands in exclusivity, pretty much bands that were low risk, meaning the big bands. And so you were, and probably the medium too. So you were left with the bands that people may have decided not to go see them. So you couldn't also make a living. And I went more into the arts, into visual arts and music in a more conceptual way. And especially events where, besides selling one ticket, because of the real estate within the event, you are already in the safe side of the investment. Okay, like for example, this last weekend we just did Pecan Street Festival. We're on the 50th anniversary. I've done it for the last 20 years. And you sell all these spaces within the festival, and basically that puts you on the safe side. You know, basically that at the end of the event, your model is safe. You know, it's solid enough that if we get a terrible rain or something like that, you're not going to be as bad as you would if you didn't have the real estate to sell, when the risk is basically on tickets.
So you've seen obviously a lot. We went from, cassette, vinyl plates to CDs. I remember CDs. Then now we have pretty much the streaming platforms, SaaS, I guess we can call them, software as a service. I don't even know what category would it be. How do you think, what do you think is going to happen to the industry next with AI? I'll be curious to hear your take on artificial intelligence. How does it benefit or make it worse in your world?
I have to be fair, okay, with something. I am 58. I am not even supposed to like a lot of the new music, because when music was new to me, such as Kiss, AC/DC, etc., the people that were my age at the time didn't get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to be fair. I cannot go and say this sucks, because there is people who like it, and it's a lot of them.
Oh, yes.
Okay, and probably if I like it, it wouldn't be very good by today's standards. Okay, maybe what makes art cool is that as much as some people love it, other people hate it. Okay, so it makes sense to me that a lot of the arts may come from AI eventually. I think that there is a segment of the population, usually misfits, who, yes, if I were AI, the first thing, and I want to control the world, the first thing I would do is go after the artists, because they are the rogues. They are the ones thinking outside the box. Okay? They are the ones that change whatever is establishment at the moment, at any given moment. Okay? So, but it all depends on the audience. It makes sense to me the art is gonna come from AI eventually, because the kids these days, AI and any kind of the digital world, it's just like another organ. It's part of their metabolism. Okay, but the artist will always exist. Okay, so when when the guitars, when somebody figured out, Les Paul, for example, figured out that you could put a mic on an acoustic guitar, play electric guitar, which means that you were in a big orchestra before, the guitar player will be sitting down. You probably didn't even hear a note he was playing because he was obscured by trombones and all the other instruments, okay? And then by putting that microphone on the guitar, it would stand out. And the people that were playing acoustic guitar at the time thought that that was the devil, that it was bad, that it was going to screw up the arts forever, and or the music forever, and the art of guitar. Yeah, of course, because change is always scary.
It is.
Okay, but without change, there is no evolution, and you cannot go against evolution. That is a fight that you're gonna lose for sure. It would be very interesting to see the artists of the future, how they are gonna use AI to make their art better. That's a more positive vision into the future, and that's the one I choose to take. I could be wrong, but it's the one I prefer to take. I don't expect to live the rest of my life complaining or fighting a fight that you cannot win, and living angry or frustrated. Yeah.
There's a very popular song in Poland that talks about what you just covered, the evolution. Obviously, every generation has their own rights and their own wrongs, and we have to accept it. That's essentially a timeless song because it applies now to me. What you said, I never understood. I never felt understood in my teenage years by the older generations. Now I already have hard times understanding the new generations because their thinking, the way they act is completely different. But we have to respect, both sides. And to that point, also what you said, the technology being part of our DNA. I read a study recently that said that, I might be butchering the number. It was around 60% of how we think, how we speak, how we act is influencing our subconscious mind from music and the art industry or that part of the world, because we're constantly listening to the music, lyrics. Most of the music has some lyrics, right? Not electro music, maybe not, but most of it. And that is influencing our subconscious level to the point where we don't even realize that, like I said, the way we act, the way we speak is actually coming from that. So it's a very, very important part of our DNA, like you said. And I still agree with you that the artists are having still the biggest influence worldwide, pretty much, and are the easiest, not the easiest, but it's a group of individuals that cannot be replaced anytime soon. They're just so unique. Everyone has his or her own character that cannot be replaced, and I hope it's going to stay like this for the near future, and we're going to continue to see good results from it, and enjoying the good music. Now you are organizing big events. The last event you organized was 150,000 people. 150,000. I will say that again, right? Is that correct?
Well, yes, what happens is that I am lucky that I live in a geographical area where people who live in this area love the arts. It's part of their lifestyle. They support the arts. Austin has that uniqueness. Actually, you know that moniker, the live music capital of the world? I think it's switched. I mean, they haven't changed the moniker, but in all reality, it's probably more than the live music, or excuse me, the live digital capital of the world or something like that. I mean, there is way more digital industries or probably bands now. Okay. But it was music which attract that industry.
Hmm.
They came up with some moniker and they registered it. I think it was under the tenure of Mayor Cook. I could be wrong, but it happens a couple of decades ago. No, probably 3 decades ago. Okay, and they did it because they knew the arts were going to attract all these creatives in the digital industry. They saw that was the future, and they were visionaries. And reality shows he was correct. We got a lot of Silicon Valley over to Austin. Most people are employed in Austin because of that. Okay, we have a strong economy. The last 2 recessions, we didn't feel them. Okay. And that is good because there is people who probably their professional world is not as stable as others. And so when a shock in the economy happens, those people could find easily themselves without means to survive, to feed their families and etc. And so having a strong economy is always great. And Austin was able to achieve it like that. I think that the employment rate is probably below anywhere else in the nation or something like that. I mean, the economic indicators are pretty good.
Well, I wish we could say the same about California. At least we have some good festivals here, but the economy definitely could be better nonetheless. With those events that you organize, how walk us through, how does it even work? How do you market it? How do you organize it? Share a few insights from the events that you organize.
Well, we obviously buy advertising in different media. I think that we ran a billboard that the impressions were like close to 500,000 impressions per week, and we ran it for a month. Okay. So I think that was very influential this last time. But in general, the people that live around here, they expect this event twice a year, always in May and in September. All you need to do is remind them. That's the beauty of having a very established brand that you are working with. Okay. And all you need to do is people to remind them, hey, save that weekend. Okay. The advantage too is that it's a type of event where entire families tend to arrive. Okay,
Mm.
tend to attend. It's safe, it's clean, uh, and there is a lot to see because it's probably about 200 artists exhibiting. Okay, 200 visual artists, and then a bunch of bands and kiddie rides galore, like a whole block of just rides. I mean, if you're a kid, you walking into a situation like that. I mean, come on, you're coming back for the rest of your life, even when you stop being a kid.
Yeah, I can't wait to visit. Yes.
Yes, and that's one of the most beautiful things is when you see, grandparents, siblings, grandkids on the stroller coming down the street looking at art. I like to think that it's one of the different factors that make Austin the city it is.
Mm.
Okay, where we get up every day knowing that life could be, you could be going through a terrible moment in life, emotional, whatever it is, but at least you're living in Austin.
Okay.
So that's a good way to start the day.
You make me want to book a flight to Austin next as soon as possible. I
Yeah,
never been to Texas actually, so maybe we'll travel in the near future to Austin. I can't wait now that the way you promote it.
yeah. I mean, we had to do something that was very scary. The show had taken place on 6th Street. It's a famous street, sort of like Bourbon Street in New Orleans, for 50 years, 49 years.
Mm.
And actually, the name of the festival is the original name of that street. And people were used to see it there. But the environment deteriorated over time. It's a very significant homeless population. At the same time, the drugs have changed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
They need treatment. They need urgent medical care,
Mm.
psychological care. Okay. They are still human beings. And you don't know what got them there too. Nobody is exempt in life from a tragedy. Okay. And, but it got to be too much. Moreover, the expenses in Austin were making the show shake financially. And I thought that was very unfair because we didn't do anything wrong for that to happen. We kept doing our job. Our model was successful for decades. I didn't see why we had to find ourselves striving. And so we made the move to BK, which is 20 minutes from downtown. It takes longer to me living far south to downtown than it takes from downtown to the new venue. We were lucky because it was a town that wanted, most likely wants the type of activities to have a positive impact in their financials, in terms of sales tax, et cetera, et cetera. And I have been working with that venue for 14 years. I do their 4th of July. That's an important show to me. It's not a show where you make a lot of money or anything like that. Actually, we got rained out the last one. So I
Wow.
don't, and we lost a bunch of money, but I don't even want to think about it right now. But it's very important to me in terms of passion and in terms of thankfulness, okay? Because it's my way to say thank you to America.
Mm.
Okay. When I grew up, you would go to school and run into pieces of people from the explosion from the night before that they probably hadn't picked up yet.
Mm.
Okay. And then you come to a place which is the greatest nation in the world because even countries where people say are better than America, their people come here too. Okay. And so it levels the field to compete. It gives you the opportunity to live safely and progress. Okay. And so that's my way to say thank you for so much love. I live by one quote, which
What is
is
it?
the last line in the last song of the last Beatles album. And it goes, at the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make.
The love you take is equal to the love you make. The love you take? Can you repeat that?
At the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. Meaning, if you are an ass, people are gonna be bad to you.
Yeah. Karma.
Okay. But if you work with passion, if you work in something that you love, eventually what you are doing, you could make mistakes. Bad stuff is gonna happen, but you're not gonna quit for starters. Okay. One of the most important things in life is not to quit when you love something. You gotta be careful because a lot of my friends that could have done much better in life didn't because they made a mistake of thinking that resilience is the same as the stubbornness. No, stubbornness is negative because it makes you repeat the same mistake, thinking that if you keep repeating the mistake, it's eventually not going to be a mistake. And that's not what it is. Resilience at least gives you the opportunity to switch gears, okay? And because if something is not working, but you still think your goal is attainable, then you have to try a different ways to approach that journey.
Absolutely. If you constantly do the same thing, I think Einstein said it. It's the first step to insanity. If you expect different results from doing the same thing over and over again. So that would be the stubbornness, right? Doesn't lead you anywhere.
The one thing, the biggest capital sin of entertainment or the arts is to be boring.
Mm.
And so how do you avoid being boring? Is by continuously creating. Some people are going to like certain ideas more than other ideas you may have, but you always have to change a little bit. You cannot, complacency is a sin.
And we've seen it the most, I believe, in the entertainment industry. Like I said earlier, we went from MP3 players to now streaming media. You can launch a album at midnight if you wanted to, and 3 minutes later, hundreds of millions of people around the world are going to see it. You can launch simultaneously, which we seen last time. Very recently, you can launch your own merchandise, clothing line, or supplements, or I've seen a skincare brand and your album at the same time, so you get financial benefits from both. This is new. This is interesting and opens up more opportunity to the entertainment industry. I know that a lot of people were complaining first when the streaming came, because first it was with CDs came a lot of piracy or the MP3 players. Now we have the streaming that is pretty much free. So it's interesting to observe how the entertainment industry has developed. But like you said, those who adapt to it, they're going to continue to create and win in that industry, well, no matter what's going to happen.
And I think it's in all industries as well. I'm probably being selfish by just mentioning the one I've been in for several years, but it's probably the one that I understand the most.
Absolutely.
There is a other aspect too, if I would, okay?
Yeah.
Some
And
have to
go
make
ahead.
decisions that are going to affect friendships.
Mm,
Okay. Sometimes you're going to get attacked by people that you don't even know because there is a lot of envy as you go progressing in life because a lot of people don't progress, unfortunately. Probably because of that too, because they're spending the energy on being negative.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Okay. If a lot of times you may even develop paranoia, if you would. Okay. When you are competing, 90% of the times you're worrying about nothing. Okay. So try to stay away from negativity as much as you can. This is a journey. Life is a journey. It starts at point A, ends at point B. That's it. And you usually don't decide point B. Actually, you don't decide point A. Right? It's what is
Yeah.
in between. So basically, try not to spend your life angry, complaining, frustrated. A lot of the people that don't like you because they wish they were doing what you're doing. Okay. You cannot go against that either. Just let it be. Don't let your mind be affected by that. It's a waste of time and it can produce cancer eventually
Yeah.
because it moves all the wrong chemicals in your body.
Let it be. I think there's a good song about that as
There
well.
you go.
Let it be. And you mentioned the term paranoia, which is an interesting term, but there's a better term that is the opposite, complete opposite of it. And I'm not sure if you heard about the word pranoia, with pranoia instead of paranoia. And pranoia, if you Google it, there is even a book on it. It's an interesting term. The difference to paranoia is that you're actually expecting that the universe, the higher power, God, whatever you believe in, that they want you to succeed. They want the good for you. They want you to be happy or joyful. A quote from Tolstoy comes to mind, that a true man or human being should be or could be happy in any circumstance, because that depends, on your thinking, how you react to a certain situation. So that was an interesting term for me, pranoia instead of paranoia. So you are going through life expecting good things happen to you, because that's what gives us the power. And yeah, I recommend looking that up and doing some research on that because that exactly taps to what you just described.
Well, my friends that are very much into yoga, Zen, all that kind of stuff, they would tell me things like that. And I didn't take them very seriously, okay? Just to find out they're probably right. Because at the end of the day, what you want to do, and it's protected by the Constitution, is to pursue happiness,
There you
okay?
go.
Get them happy. Yeah.
Absolutely, and just be okay with the cards that you dealt with, and you have to go through all. Like you said, I'm also not. I wasn't born in the United States, so I came here from. I saw a different world, overseas. Maybe
Do you mind
not.
me asking where you from?
I'm from Poland.
Oh, wow. Okay. I have to go there. I need to
Yes,
find a conference there because that's my best excuse to travel.
yeah, business travel always. There is a bunch of events happening. Poland is huge when it comes to entertainment. This is the second thing I would say to being Catholic because most of the nation was raised, still is Catholic, but the entertainment industry is the second thing. We have events all the time. We have Polish TV here, and I know friends every time there's a weekend or a birthday or names day, we actually celebrate names days. So every single year, there's multiple occasions where there's a name Matthew. My name is Matthew or Mateusz in Polish. So there's my name's day. In some regions, it's celebrated more than your birthday. So there's always an opportunity to get together with your whole family, have fun, eat, drink, and dance. We love to dance. So it's a usually very entertainment based community, I would say, or essentially nation, if you will. So I highly recommend visiting during the summertime, ideally, because the winter.
Summertime in America, you mean?
Yes.
You just got me interested. I gotta check that out. I
Yeah,
gotta go.
winter gets, after October, November, it's not really a nice place. For that part of Europe, it's not really a nice place to visit until November. It's beautiful, and then again in April, March, April, that's when the season starts to pick up again. When it gets warmer, beautiful, everything is blooming. So it's for seasonal place, but definitely an entertainment. The entertainment industry is impacting a lot. And funny enough, the Latin industry, the Latin music impacts even that region of the world because everyone is trying to adopt the new Latin wave. Even, Coachella festivals next door where we live here. So I see a lot more Latin music and Latin artists, or even not Latin artists, but artists that I want to say steal, copy the Latin music movement. So that's very
That's
interesting.
super fair, man. That's super fair. There is only 12 notes. Okay, so
Oh, really?
everybody end up copying everybody else. Plus, you play what you listen to.
Yeah,
Okay, so
exactly.
I
Yeah,
don't see unless it's an actual, using something, but rap music is on it for a long time too. They grab a good riff from a good established song. It's already market proven that that particular musical figure has an impact in the market, and so they turn it into something else. But that's the arts, man. It has to happen you know
absolutely.
yeah, it's just 12 notes, and so that's very fair. What I know is that Poland has very good
What extreme what?
extreme metal, like metal music.
Oh, extreme metal music.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, it has a bunch of death metal bands and thrash bands and stuff like that I heard
Ex-
over time. I mean, I was aware of that.
Could be. Well, I wasn't really a follower of that genre, I have to say, but I probably that's why. But actually, yeah, there is now that I think about it, my sister grew up, and my sister is much older than me. I have to say that. Shout out to my sister, but she grew up in that environment, so in that genre, I would say, and that was pretty much ending the communist area in Poland, and that's when the heavy metal music, if my memory is correct, my information.
Interesting. The same happened in Russia, or
Yeah,
formerly the USSR. Yes.
yeah, same thing. So I guess
Music does, because I mean, for example, you know that the Beatles were forbidden in the USSR.
really,
Yes, it was forbidden. And so the guys that wanted that music, they would press their own records.
wow,
I've been trying to find one of those copies on eBay for my collection. But the same kids, they will get a job in a recording or in a pressing factory, in a record pressing factory, and they will, I guess, sneak in there at night and start pressing those records so they could have them, and their friends could have them. Okay. And I think that in a certain way that prepare people for that. I mean, music is very important. If you look at it, one of the greatest musical eras was 50s, 60s, 70s. Okay. But I mean, the 50s and 60s, they prepare the youth for civil rights, for the attainment of civil rights. I mean, civil rights wouldn't probably have been able to be attained unless a generation decide to go rogue, okay, massively, okay. And so, yeah, I mean, the arts are way more influential than people in other industries would like to think they are.
100%. Like I said, even the new studies show that 60 or 70% of how we think is influenced by the music that we listen to, because we spend a lot of time listening to music, even in the background, or whenever you travel, or when you go out to those events. There's always music and art around us that we it always has a big impact on us. Liz, moving forward, if you had an opportunity to sit across the table from Luis, who is just starting out, what advice would you have for him?
Don't do stupid shit. You know what's the problem? That I would be the father if you would, okay? So I would probably talk to him like a father talks to his kid, okay? But with the best intentions, right? Like any father is supposed to have for their kids, right? Every generation, I mean, you're a younger generation than mine, so whatever it is that you're getting involved with, you're gonna be better than the previous one. So that is already guaranteed. Okay. So don't be afraid.
Mm.
Number one, if you're going to make a decision, make the decision. If it's a bad one, you can fix later. But don't be afraid of life. Okay. The worst thing I have experienced in my life was to feel fear when there was nothing to fear. Okay. Don't make decisions on fear. One of the important things that I have learned in life is that, and this came with martial arts. Okay. Actually, it's life changing. Okay. And my grandmaster, A.B. Real, he learned directly from General Choi, who was the creator of Taekwondo. Yeah. And he was the first, he told me the second generation of American Marines, or in his case, special forces that went to train to Korea. Okay. And it's been like a second father. Okay. And uh, one of the good things that it does to you is that gives you self-confidence that you never experienced before in your life, no matter what you achieve or whatever. There is always, that's how we are. Human beings are like that. There is always a part of us that is a weakness. Okay. And I think that in order to succeed, it's very important to turn those weaknesses into assets, because everybody has assets, natural assets, natural skills. That's not enough. Natural skills are going to allow you to live a standard life probably, but it's not going to allow you to stand out. It's your weaknesses that make you stand out and how you manage them. Okay. But one of the important things that I gained, and I kind of suppress most of my insecurities, is learning martial arts because of the self-confidence it gives you. Self-confidence is, I don't know how to put it in terms of percentage, but one of the most important factors in life, because life is unfair, and it was never fair, and it never will. So
I
you have to make decisions accordingly to the situation. We're going
I
to
can
make the
agree.
you don't want to make. But at the end, I think that things fall in place.
I agree with that. I spent my teenager years before I got to America in Germany. So that's when I learned about martial arts. Or, well, I grew up loving martial arts from the movies, as we talked
Yeah.
about before we hit record. Steven Seagal, Chuck Norris was one of them, but Steven Seagal will be my favorite. You had all the other fighters there, and obviously, I always dreamt about being able to do some things that they do. When I came to Germany, it became a necessity to me. I was pretty much, it was tough for me to leave Poland and leave my friends and everyone. I didn't speak a language in German. I mean, didn't speak a word in German. Didn't understand what people talk to me. I had to be going to the German school, and was kind of like a tough space for me mentally and physically as well.
Mm.
So that's when I learned my best friend until today from South Korea. He also came like a few years before me to Germany, so he was kind of trying to adopt as much as possible. But his father was a grandmaster from Germany in Hapkido, which is Korean martial arts, and he kept developing it into more of maybe mixed martial arts, let's say. And yeah, I started training with him. That gave me not only self confidence, but I was able to defend myself many times in public or in school. And yeah, 100% agree. I 100% agree with you that self confidence is extremely important. Yeah, no one can do that for you. You have to develop it yourself. You have to build it yourself, and you have to do what's necessary to build it. Otherwise, you'll go through life being fearful with everything that's happening around us. Yeah, that's not a good trait to have. It's hard to live life like that.
It's a really bad feeling too.
Absolutely.
It's
Yes.
a really bad feeling. And again, like I said before, I think that 90% of the time that I was scared, it was just a ghost. There was
Yeah.
really nothing to be scared of. So it was a waste of time, of energy, of emotions,
Ever.
a
Yeah.
waste of
And
life.
and health. And worrying, just like worrying. Worrying is pretty much expecting a negative event in advance. So you're expecting something bad is going to happen. Why not expect that something good might happen, or whatever it happens, and you're gonna deal with that. Luis, my last question to you: what are you excited the most in the near future that you're looking forward to?
Well, I have been doing lately something that I enjoy. Okay, it is true that eventually I'm probably not gonna be able to do these festivals. Okay, because I don't want to get a heart attack or something like that too soon. Okay, um, it's probably a field for people who are younger. Okay, we're gonna have a new vision. Okay, that are gonna be more in touch. We're gonna have a better pulse of the momentum. Okay, it's eventually gonna happen, and that's right because the arts have to renew themselves. That's
Sure.
fair, fine. But what would I like to do next? Somehow, and probably because my father was a professor of engineering. I'm second generation University of Texas. Uh, I like I like teaching. I've been again traveling the world with one of my companies is called rocklectures.com. I was approached by I was in I really love UT. Okay. I'm very grateful to UT. Actually, the library that I mentioned that I used to resell books now hosts what is called the Luis Zapata Open Collection. Okay, which is rare musical recordings that I
Wow.
collected from mostly from Latin America, obviously, because it goes to a Latin American gear and Caribbean gear library. Okay, they called me up and they said because I was kind of partially funding as fellowship, named after Ann Deagle, who was a mother to all of us for many generations that went through that school, and we had these alumni reunions, okay, that normally during the daytime is the most boring thing in the world, okay. And then, but eventually, we look forward to the evening where everybody's gonna get drunk and talking about, remembering the old days and whatnot, probably, yeah, and dance and all that stuff, right? So it's very cool to see what everybody's done in life, especially when you start getting to this age, okay. But the early programming, dude, it's like, dude, like, what am I doing sitting here? It's like, oh, everything is quiet, and it's very. So I thought, why don't you do a talk? Somebody on this exactly that we're talking about. And I said, like, well, but who the hell wants to hear about my industry when most everybody's in something else? But I told her, I've been doing this on the side, just for personal pleasure, which is investigating about the contribution of Latinos and Native Americans in music, rap music. And so they say, okay, let's do that, right? And so I prepared because I wasn't a professor properly or anything like that. I had never done it in my life. Actually, I invited two friends of mine because I was actually feeling like a terrible need for balls, if you would. And so basically, I did pick up all these YouTubes, right? So I could talk and kind of live to the video behind me, the videos behind me, and it turned out really well. And then there were a couple of guys that were in the audience who I had never met before. They were professors in other colleges. And they told me, hey, I want you to do this in my college. And so I went to do, I think it was Trinity and Rice. And next thing I do in TEDx. Then the next thing somebody tells me, you know, there are all these conferences. I have been to a few conferences within the United States. Okay. And then and then I realized that I hadn't seen the world. Okay. That every time for many years while I was a student, already a professional, and I had time and money to travel, I would go immediately to Peru to see my parents. Okay. And now, because of life reasons, I don't have to do that anymore. And so basically, I want to see the rest of the world. And so I started applying to conferences and started getting accepted. And the next thing, I'm being awarded in Rome, Barcelona, and Kuala Lumpur. Okay. And then I get, you know, and I get to see all these places and meet all these people I never met before. The world is beautiful, man. And we are all the same everywhere. Okay. And I love standing there and showing and talking about something I feel passionate about. So I would love to do that at college level, because with a master's degree, I think I can teach undergraduate at least. I would love to do that. The other aspect is once I got my black belt and I was already I started teaching at this point is in a volunteer basis on Fridays to seniors how to defend themselves. You know, because of the new drugs, vulnerable people, whether it's kids or seniors, they are not safe anymore. Okay, they could be approaching a parking lot. Somebody could see that they are picking up money on an ATM, etc. Follow them and try to hurt them or just mock them. Okay. And so I started teaching that in a volunteer basis. Fridays is the best day of the week. It's the energy, the gratitude you feel. You're giving these people a second wing in life because they are doing things they didn't think they could. But it's all based on physics. And the laws of physics are the same in the known universe, everywhere. And so all you are doing is applying techniques that everybody can do. A kid, a senior can do. They don't need a strength. And if their attacker is a super muscular, mean abuser, you know, high on who knows what, they can properly defend themselves. And I love the effect of that. So
Yeah.
those are two things I eventually would like to. The three things I would like to do: travel the world, teach, whether about rock and roll music, which once was king everywhere in the world, that lasted many years and that produced a lot of positive changes in society and around the world, by the way, and martial arts.
Wow, love it. And don't forget, if I may suggest, the virtual world as well. I know you get to experience you want to experience always human to human interaction, but the new generations, the info or online education and info space, we call it info space from informational industry and also educational, they kind of both work together, is becoming really, really big. There's platforms such as school.com. I'm not sure if you heard about that. I'm happy to share more afterwards. So you can, it's a very simple platform. It's written with the K, SKOOL, school. It's one of the platforms that allows, it's one of the platforms. They're growing super fast. And what it is essentially, like the name says, is school, right? For all kinds of communities. So you can have a community for rock and roll enthusiasts where you would have a closed group. It can be a free group, it can be a paid group, it can be, like I said, it can be something that you do just for free, just to create a community and teach, educate them inside of it. Or it can be something that is, more of like something monetized, if you will. Inside of the platform, you can have events like online events. In fact, you could do a hybrid event. I'm not sure if actually a lot of people do it. I do hybrid events for Toastmasters, which is a public speaking group. So I do an online and in person at the same time. So you could do something like that too. So essentially you can have your events, weekly events, monthly events, up to you. And on top of that, you can have pre-recorded content. So videos, essentially maybe 101, rock and roll 101 or whatever that would be, your martial artist 101 trick. You can, tricks, movements you can learn within a day or something like that. And you can have a sequence of videos that they can watch, get familiar with it. And inside of this, you have this community aspect, which is very important. They almost gamify it. So if you're an active person, you get some sort of rewards for it, and you'll get on the leadership board. And you have, comments. You can comment. You can post inside of your members. Group members can also post about their point of view or something's happening in their city, and then you're gonna find out that there's something happening maybe in Houston, and they might invite you to it as well. So it's overall one example. It's a platform that I'm familiar with, and it's becoming very, very, very popular and becoming pretty much an alternative now to traditional education, where you learn something specific, you learn about something you're passionate about, and you learn from an expert. Obviously, you wouldn't teach about rock and roll if you haven't spent many years in that industry, right? Or martial arts. If you had no idea about martial arts, why would you teach about it? So you learn directly from an expert. It's a great platform that reaches whoever you want. You can reach the masses, or you can reach a specific group of people and be successful with that as well, and have that fulfillment that you're impacting people. So I definitely encourage you to look at that as well.
I knew that by doing this, I was going to learn from you. Knew I was going to learn new things, but you just told me some beautiful information. I'm going to have to look into it.
Yes, I will.
Yes.
I'll,
I kind of like thought that if I could make this thing, that I could sell it to several colleges, because this is what is so terrible about education in America these days. That's one thing that we need to work on, is that they don't pay you anything if you're just an adjunct professor.
Mm.
And that's really wrong, because you're probably preparing the next generation of people. Okay. And so I was trying to think, how can I do this thing and sell it to different colleges, so it can actually become a source of income I can work with and continue living, making a living, right? And so that is how. Thank you very much. I knew about Udemy or something like that.
Yes, Udemy is popular as well.
I looked into it a while back. Then I got busy with my
This
media.
is much better. This is much better, in my opinion, because you get that community aspect that I haven't really experienced on Udemy. And the thing is, again, we're looking to, not that we're looking for shortcuts, but we're looking for simple way to learn, because that gives us that pleasure, right? When something is too difficult and you're overwhelmed from the get-go, from the beginning, you're not going to learn anything. It's a that environment to learn from. And with that community aspect and others joining and you being an expert, it creates this environment that is really nice. What's that?
I appreciate that. Yeah. Uh,
Yes,
but uh, but yes, that's definitely. If you ask, you never know what life is gonna bring you. But if I were in a perfect world, that's something I would like to do next in life. It's very
absolutely.
important, because you don't want people, younger people, to make the same mistakes you made. And hopefully you can inspire, like I was inspired by professors. Some of my professors, Earl Young, William Doolittle, Gerard Behag. I was very lucky. I was very lucky.
Yeah,
And I'm
absolutely.
very grateful to them. So,
I can only imagine.
Stereo VRL, absolutely.
And I'm glad you were able to experience their presence before they moved on to a better place. And as you mentioned earlier, some of them are no longer with us, and things like that you can't replicate and fake. So I'm glad you were able to.
Replicate it exactly, unless you really try and you do it yourself.
Exactly. Yes. Well, Luis, it was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for hopping on and sharing your stories. I look forward to visiting your part of the world and maybe attending one of the
You're
events.
welcome here. You're welcome here. You gotta guest room and everything, if you will. It's all
Thank
good,
you.
bro. I truly enjoy this, and
Thank
I'm
you.
very thankful to you for thinking of me for this.
Thank you so much, Luis. I'll look forward to seeing you in person very soon.
All right.